You know, life's too short to settle for less. You deserve the best. I like how you like how I.
Welcome back to Petty and the Post. I'm one of your hosts, Edwin Garcia, aka He Creates 88, and I'm here with the Petty's Laker fan at the Petty's LA. How you doing, Petty?
I'm good, man. How are you doing today, brother?
Good. I can't wait to get into all the stuff. We got a lot. We're finally, technically tonight, and when you listen to this, the NBA season is officially started, at least the preseason. So we're going to get into everything. We're going to get into the media day takeaways. Who were the winners? Who were the losers? We're going to talk about the Warriors hanging out in Tokyo this weekend. That's going to be iconic and historic. And we're going to get into the new sneakers, the Jordan 1 Lost and Found, LeBron 20s, and some white lobsters. I can't wait. And we're also going to touch a little bit on pop culture, what's going on with Deadpool and what's going on with Star Wars. So why don't we start off with the media day takeaways? I always say it before. I've said it again. In my media day, you can't really win media day, but you could definitely lose. And we saw a little combination of that with our favorite team, the Lakers. Petty, just your general view on Lakers media day on Monday. How'd you feel?
I think overall it was a win because it wasn't like this. You know, it had all the ingredients to be combustible. You know, you have LeBron James, who's a spectacle in and of himself. You have a roster with about 27 guards on it that's poorly constructed. You got Rob Pelinka and the coach there, and you have Russell Westbrook, who, you know, had a very, we'll say, inflammatory exit interview, a scorched earth exit interview. So it had all the ingredients to be really terrible. I'm just glad also too Dennis Schroeder wasn't there because he was still working on his visa stuff. Because like I said, it was a cocktail that was like that could have been a problem. So I think overall it was a win because we avoided that whole dominating the whole media cycle thing. But some of what Rob Pelinka said to me, that was some of the stuff that was more of a loss.
Yeah, I feel a little higher, I think, but we're probably around the same spot. You know, I think overall I was pretty positive. Again, it's media day. What they're going to say, everyone's going to play hard. Everyone's here to win. Everyone wants a championship. You know, every team's kind of like that. And you saw more of the same from the Lakers. But like you said, everyone was waiting to see what Russ said. For the most part, it seems like he said the right stuff and he had at least the right demeanor, not like his exit interview, as you mentioned. If anyone wants to see a bad exit interview, just Google Russ exit interview Lakers, and you're in for a treat because that one was like that.
It might be the worst one ever. It's in that conversation.
It's probably top 5. There's a few people who stormed out or refused. I remember Porzingis once refused to have his exit interview with the Knicks. I think that probably says a lot right there. You didn't want to talk to Phil Jackson. But yes, it was up there for sure. This wasn't like that. The media day was kind of norm. He handled those questions well. New coach, preaching defense, seems like a good guy. We'll see. He's a rookie coach in terms of being a head coach. So we don't really know his style. We just have an idea from what he says and some of his assistant work. So now we're going to see what he's like when he's like the main guy and completely in charge, right? So I think overall it was pretty good. I was pretty happy with it. Like you said, Pelinka, he gave the best answers he could, but at the end of the day, I think he did a decent job because Russ is still on the team and most people don't want him on the team. So when you're answering questions about why, it's kind of like when a teacher says, hey, why haven't you done the assignment? Like, you're not really going to have a good excuse because at the end of the day, you don't have it done. So, there wasn't much he's going to say. What's he going to say? Like, the deals aren't good enough. He's going to say he can't negotiate. Like, there's not much he can say about it. And also, he can't legally talk about other players and other teams. If you watch, the main thing he talked about was the Ted Stepien rule and how about giving up these picks. Once they do that, they're not going to have any more trades. And even when doing that, he kept reiterating, I'm not talking about any player specifically. The reason he did that, he didn't want to get hit with one of those 50K fines. He can't be like, look, I want Buddy Hield, but it's only going to be for one pick. Like, he cannot say that. So he told the line, I think, pretty well. But I understand the frustration because at the end of the day, he said this roster would look vastly different, and it looks different, but not the kind of different people were expecting.
Exactly, and that's where I was going with it. Is it's more of like, I think he handled it as best as he could, but he put himself in the position where no matter what he said was going to be wrong because of previous statements that he said. Like you want to go back to like, the things that he said at the end of the season last year
Hmm.
or in interviews. So like that's where I wanted to hold him accountable for a little bit more, strongly there, because I do think that if the seat's not hot, it's warm.
Yeah, we talked about this offline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was first kind of disagreeing with you, but now I'm like, yeah, you make some good points. It's at least warm. Either this team constructed now has to play well, or he's got to make the trade for Russ, and it's got to work well. I think if neither happens, and we have like a very similar year to last year, yeah, it's gonna get hot, early. So again, it's never boring in Lakerland, but
Yeah.
overall, I think it was an okay start.
A couple of my takeaways too I wanted to say is one, because we're fortunate enough to be a couple days removed from there, so we also have some of the the I guess like training camp interviews with Darvin
Yeah.
Ham, and I think one, he has like excellent composure. Like I think he commands like a respect, and he plays the game well, and in a way that the previous coach did. And that's not an indictment on Frank, because I personally was a fan of Frank Vogel. I think he had
Me too.
like very blaring weaknesses in his repertoire as a coach that were like made worse because of the roster, but I really liked him. But to me, Darvin Ham has done everything right so far. I mean, at the end of the day, he could be the perfect guy to talk to. You could be like, man, I want to be best friends with Darvin Ham, but if they're winning games or playing well or being competitive, it's not going to matter. But I thought it was interesting that he talked about in one of the training camp interviews, when he was like, people were talking about, he said like, oh, he made no comment on like who was going to be the starting guard, and that turned into like a headline. And like he's realizing that like that the coach of the Lakers is probably one of the if not the most like highest profile coaching jobs in any sport, right?
Yeah.
Outside of like, I would say like just soccer, just because in general soccer is just internationally a bigger sport. But as far as high profile and like people caring about what you're wearing, what you're saying, and all that stuff, I don't think there's anything higher than not much higher than the head coach of the Lakers. So I thought that was interesting for him to kind of admit, like, I feel like a deer in the headlights sometimes, because like me not saying anything's a story, me saying something's a story, and him having
Yeah,
to
he mentioned
navigate
that.
that.
Yeah, he mentioned that the damned if you do, damned if you don't. Sometimes I can't speak on things, and then when I speak on them, when I don't speak on them, people think that means something. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think the quote you're talking about was in media day. He said someone asked him about the point guard position, and he said we're a ways away. And the way I read that was we're a ways away, like, oh, we're far away from me having to make a decision. But I think people read this, oh, we're a ways away from Russ being that guy. And again, they start to twist your words. People start assuming, oh, Russ is a ways away from being started. I'm like, that's not what he meant. He meant like I don't gotta think about that for like a week. So like we're a ways away. And then if you think about the actual regular season, that's like 3 weeks away. So like I got a lot of time. I haven't seen these guys hoop together. Like I'm a ways away from thinking about that. But again, like you said, it's so heightened. Everything is going to be like on 12. So I want to talk a little bit about the other teams, even though I could talk Lakers all day. But let's go on the other teams here. Of the other teams, which ones do you think had a good media day, and which ones do you think had a bad media day? I'll leave it up to you. You want to talk about the winners or the losers first?
I'm petty, so I would like to speak on the losers first. Let's talk about the winners first, because I think we can kind of go through that pretty quickly, and that's a lot easier. I think one of the winners I believe was the Mavs media day, just because they played that game where they needed to add a specific word into their presser. It was all fun and games. This, for them, there wasn't anything. I think that's a win for media day when it's fun, right? Because that's when this is when everybody's most excited. So if your franchise is already kind of on like the hot seat,
Good vibes, yeah.
well, I'm saying, like, if your franchise is on the hot seat on media day, when that's supposed to be like, first date, like, oh, I'm loving the vibe type of thing, then
Yeah, yeah.
you're in for a rough season. But I think for them, theirs was really awesome. I liked what their social media team did with that. How they were like they would give them a word and then a random word and then they needed to throw it in to their to what they were talking about. I thought that was good. Grizzlies, awesome too. He got fined. I think he said he was gonna get fined for wearing that grill. John Morant because
Yeah,
he
yeah.
wore a grill in his on his media day. So that one.
For me, I have a couple different ones. I think one of the winners was Miami. Again, kind of has a fun vibe. They know they're a top competitive team, so they're kind of ready to go and they're ready to compete. So that's definitely a positive with Miami. Another one that I think is decent as well that I also don't want to talk about is the Clippers. Again, it wasn't like shockwaves, but hey, Kawhi's here, PG's here. They seem good to go.
I like their sneaker cam. I'm not gonna lie. I think that's pretty cool because
So I think they had a good one too.
yeah. And who else was there more people? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Those are the main. No, you're good. Yeah, those are the main two that I think probably had positive, and the Warriors, of course, because they're the champs, and it's kind of all good vibes.
Yeah.
AI's back. Andre Iguodala. So I feel like they were like in a good place with all that. So those are the three that I had as winners.
Got it. One moment here. Dalton, if you could put like a timestamp right now, because I'm gonna need to correct what you're talking about. I didn't notice it because I have my headphones on. All right, we're good.
Okay, cool.
I don't know if I should I say something about it. Should I say something to go back into it? Like, hey, sorry,
No, I can just go into the losers.
Okay, cool. We'll just all right. So go ahead, take it from there.
All right, cool. All right, so we went through some of the winners there. So let's go to your favorite part, Petty. Let's talk about the losers. Who are your losers of Media Day? Maybe we have the same ones. We can just go back and forth.
Yes. All right. So I think the more like I guess it was more of like a fun so to me the Nets are one that's winners and losers because Nets fans it's a winner. If you start at the beginning of the summer with Kevin Durant wanting a trade and Kyrie Irving wanting to go to the Lakers and the season starts with both of them on the roster, to me that's a win. Obviously
Yeah.
it was a circus though, like, and I'll let you go into why that was.
Yeah, there was a funny, I knew KD. Once all this stuff kind of settled, I'm like, he's gonna be hilarious on Media Day. He was one of my ones to watch. I'm like, how? Because there's funny thing about KD. He kind of acts like the world's against him all the time, and sometimes it's true, but sometimes it's not. And either way, he keeps the same attitude. So I'm like, I know somehow he's gonna make this like, oh, the media demanded my trade, Mm-hmm. So of course that's kind of what he was talking about. That's something about like loyalty and like for what do you say to the Brooklyn fans who are like worried about like your commitment? And he kind of said something. I'm paraphrasing, but he basically was like, well, if I'm committed to this team, I signed a 4-year contract. I'm here, and if you don't believe I'm committed, that's on you. And I commented on there like this is gaslighting 101 because that's exactly what it is. Like, well, the reason why a fan would be worried is because you just spent all summer trying to leave. It was your actions that made them worry. So then for them to come back to you and be like, hey, I'm worried, and be like, man, that's on you. I didn't tell you to be worried. Why are you worried? I signed the 4-year contract. I'm like, yeah, you signed the 4-year contract, and then you said I want out. You didn't say they were lying or nothing all summer until you dropped that boardroom tweet, So it's like, I mean, you can see why I'm concerned. Like, how far do we have? How bad does it have to get for us to be back there next summer? Like I'm nervous. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Playing devil's advocate too, though. Like I think we talked about this a little bit off air. Is that like Kevin Durant has never had an issue of like performing when he was like on the court. Like once he's in between on the lines, Kevin Durant is going to give you 100%, and there's not going to be anything that distract. Like I don't think you could say anything, or he could be dealing with anything outside of the game that's going to affect how he plays when he hoops. I've seen, like you'll see him be like arguing with some like Avi middle schooler guy about like something dumb that they say, and then he'll drop 40 on their favorite team. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So in his defense, I think I get what he was trying to say with that, but like I think that it's a little bit like you said, short sighted, and kind of like, come on, man, like that why you can comprehend why people don't think you're committed, even though
Yeah, why a Brooklyn Nets fan would be nervous about you finishing this contract that you already tried to get out of, like 8 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. And, maybe you have good reasons, but again, as a fan, you would be nervous. You're like, like you said, they went into the summer thinking we might be rebuilding, like all the way. So, and then again, Kyrie being Kyrie, I Kyrie's talent. And if he comes to the Lakers, I would be happy, but I would not be happy about having to talk about this kind of stuff every other week, because Kyrie says the darndest thing sometimes, whether the earth's flat, whether he's sharing InfoWars memes, or he claims human rights violations on an optional vaccine. It's just ridiculous. And again, Kyrie did it again, talking about that, and also the fact that he also asked for a trade. And he mentioned that he didn't have too many options, but there were options. So again, like you said, it's a win-lose. You're happy they're there, but then when you hear them talk, you're like, man, I don't know.
Yeah. Like I think too, like those are the guys who's like they probably have like a top tier media training, and they choose to ignore it. Like I know that they if they needed to, if they were just like, hey, I want to play the game, like the way, because LeBron plays the game, but I think there's a way that you can play the game and be politically correct. I'll say that, like in everything that you say, while still providing truth, right? And I think that like they just don't care. They don't care what you think about them, and I think that's always gonna be there's always gonna be an issue with that, right?
And it almost worked the first year, right? They were right. We talked about a toe away from making the finals. But you saw, and I think that's what's so interesting about Brooklyn. That's the potential. But what else is the potential? The year after, where Kyrie's missing games, he's not there. One of the big three demands out. Kyrie doesn't perform well in the playoffs, and look, they're getting bounced, and then in the summer it's all this hoopla. So I think the Brooklyn experience so far, they've gotten the good and the bad in the 2 years. So I can't wait to see what happens this year. But we're still a couple weeks away. And then real quick, our other loser, I'll mention it. It's got to be the Phoenix Suns, and they're definitely the big losers. I don't think there's no spin on this one. They're just losers, straight up.
Exactly that. Man. We have right now, for the people who are listening at home, we have up on the screen the video of when they asked DeAndre Ayton, if they've spoken about their incident on the sideline game 7. For a little context that I thought was interesting, that I think it's notable to share, is like I was watching Undisputed, and Skip Bayless and Lil Wayne are good friends, and Lil Wayne told him, so take that with a grain of salt, that he's like, I've never seen like a coach and a player get into it like that hard in the middle like of a game, and they kind of have some implications that Monty Williams believed that he quit on him, and you can, based on the way that he played, you can understand that. For me specifically, I think it was probably more of on the them not giving him a contract. Like, how are you gonna have someone in a contract year? Basically you're telling them a player that you don't believe in them, like you don't believe they're in what they're worth, and you have to be forced into paying them like the max, and it's not the max that you could have paid them; it's the max that they could have got elsewhere. So, I personally, I think me and you both agree that those are the official biggest losers of media day.
On this one, there's no debate. To not talk to him ever, it doesn't make any sense to me. You have to at least try to bury the hatchet. You have to
immediately.
Talk one conversation. Like, I'm not saying every week, but to not have any conversation is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, that's just poor leadership. And then add all the other stuff going on, right? You got the owners, forced to sell the team because of all the stuff we've talked about, the Sarver situation. That's a mess. Then on the court, your big, re-signing of your restricted free agent, like the way you handled that all was bad. You got him frustrated to the point where there's a screaming match on Game 7. You got embarrassed on Game 7 and got blown out by Luka and the Mavs. You don't resolve it. You don't talk about it. The team's going to be sold, sometime this year, the NBA season year, not the calendar year probably. And then even the other people, right? Booker's saying the same thing. He hasn't talked to him. That seems a little weird. And then to me, another damning thing, they asked Chris Paul what he learned from that experience of losing Game 7. And he said he didn't learn anything. So they're just going to run it back. He's like, I didn't learn anything. I'm ready. I'm like, think of a failure of that, spectacular fashion. And, you have no takeaway from that.
Yeah.
It just seems wild. So media day and the days after, it's not sunny in Phoenix. I'll tell you that. It's been a mess.
Yeah, you hit right on the head. The fact that Devin Booker doesn't believe it's going to be a distraction. He might be talking about himself only.
Yeah, maybe him.
Because that captivated the whole conversation. I know you saw that I made that meme about it, right? About like when Chris Paul sees Devin Booker, and it was that the Stanley when they had the new Howard guy who was black, and he threw up like the power fist, and then Stanley just rolled his eyes because it's like Chris Paul was talking all this like, hey, we're going to get this guy a bag. Like, you know what I mean? That's why you don't say stuff like that. You know what I mean? He was probably hyped up off adrenaline. He's seeing him be very efficient and play well in the regular season. He had a pretty good series against the Lakers, right? He killed us, right?
The season before, yep.
And, he's saying, oh, we're going to get you a bag, right? And then, when bag time was here, he wasn't out there advocating for him or getting him that money. And, honestly, I think the Suns are the only ones themselves that are to blame for most of this. Obviously, the Robert Sarver thing hangs over the franchise like a storm cloud. But also, the fact that they're not willing to pay the guy that they drafted that early, to me, you have to go all in that type of situation, because is it worth what you're going through right now? Lacking like that, fraying that relationship, that could potentially lower your roof, and you have to pay him anyway. He's here anyway. So to me, it was like, he was giving me those vibes. Ayton was giving me those vibes like, I'm here for now, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. I would be surprised if he's gone by the end of the year. I really think my Kyrie hat on. I think that they just paid him so he wouldn't walk for nothing, and they're going to trade him once they're allowed to. So I think that there's a deadline for when they can trade him. February? I think it's sometime in December.
No, December.
Because he's a restricted free agent, so you can't trade a restricted free agent until a certain date. I don't know the exact date, but I do think he'll probably be moved before the trade deadline.
And you have the Jay Crowder thing, which is really going under the radar a bit.
But he's like, hey, I'm out of here, man. I hate this place. Get me out. So it's been a mess in Phoenix for
sure.
He
requested not to come to training camp too, by the way.
Yeah, and he tweeted it too. He said, I'm not going to be there. Then he took it down. It was a week before training camp. So it's not been good in Phoenix. So you hate to see it. They'll always have maybe they should listen to LeBron when he told them to be humble, right? He told the campaign, chill out.
He's like,
it was all good just a week ago, like Jay-Z said.
Exactly.
It was all good a week ago.
Shoot, man. So yeah.
Who's still having a good time, unfortunately, is the Warriors. They're out in Tokyo playing some preseason games, and this has kind of been the talk of the NBA town because they're the first team to kind of kick off preseason. They're actually starting officially Friday at 3 a.m. West Coast time, so it's pretty bananas. Unfortunately, I have work to do, so I'll probably actually be up to see that. But it's been cool, even though obviously I'm not a Warrior fan. It's been cool to see all the kind of collabs they've been doing. Being out in Tokyo, taking pictures is good, even for superstars like that. To kind of, who knows how many of them haven't been to Tokyo, so it's like, okay, you get to see it on a work trip. That's pretty cool. And if Dalton can hook me up here, I tagged him on this Sugar tweet. Suga's a member of BTS. I think you know a little bit about BTS, right, Petty? Because you got some K-pop stans in your family as well, right?
Yes, yes. Shout out to my sister Trey. She's a giant K-pop fan. I don't
Okay,
know
cool.
if she's on the standum, where it's like, oh, this one person, but she's really into the scene. And she's taught me a lot about it. And I've been able to enjoy some of the music too. Like, there's a few of them. For me personally, a lot of the music it reminds me of like a lot of like early 2000s pop, like NSYNC and all that stuff. So I mean, it's cool and
Yes.
stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't hate on it like some people were like very pushing back on it, and also it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, for me, similar situation. My wife loves these groups, so I actually know BTS pretty well. Same thing with like other bands that are out there like Red Velvet, Tomorrow by Tomorrow. I went to one of their concerts, so yeah, we're Army sympathizers here, which is the name of the fan base here. And fun thing about this artist, they were one of the ones that helped Wiggins with his like getting getting his starter spot with the All Star game and stuff like that. And also, he's one of the rappers for the group, and he actually raps a lot about basketball. I told my wife about this
Yeah,
when I showed her the picture because she knows him, even though she's not really that familiar with the Warriors.
yeah,
She knows the Warriors as well because if you're around me, you're gonna learn some basketball regardless. So she's aware, but not as aware as the music side. And then she showed me some of his lyrics, and he straight up be rapping about basketball, like especially the earlier albums.
yeah.
He was rapping about hooping. They got music videos where there's like basketball courts and like shooting and like the comfort of basketball in life. I was like, oh snap! Like this guy, he's
Yeah.
not just like
Yeah, yeah, he's
liking
not.
them for clout. Like he really used to hoop like in high school and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. He also met Steph Curry and all them. He was there at like
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, I
like the
saw that.
media there.
You
So
saw that
it's been
sumo? They
cool
did some
watching.
sumo stuff. They were doing like Clay and Steph were trying out sumo wrestling and trying to push a sumo wrestler. It was hilarious watching that. By the
Yeah, so
way,
it's been fun.
side note, we need to make an amendment or a update. Our producer, super genius producer working in the back, has notified us that Aiton cannot be traded until January 15th.
There you
Uh,
go.
yeah.
Maybe our producers out there, helping the Sixers a little. Can you imagine Embiid and Ayton? That's a heck of a combination. You can either go two centers or like off the bench. Yo, Ayton would eat.
You mean like the Timberwolves? Two centers.
Maybe it's like the Pelicans when they had AD and
Boogie.
DeMarcus Cousins was
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Boogie exactly. So Aiden's denying any tamperings involved. All right,
No,
but
it's
yeah,
mostly to
thanks
us.
so much.
Nah. Oh man.
We'll see. Yeah, so January 15th is when Aiden can potentially be traded, and I'll be very curious to see what this if he's still in the same mood now. By then, who knows? Maybe they start winning, it's all good, or maybe he's like, yo, the minute on the 16th, don't call me. All right, so now for those who are interested in watching some of these games, unfortunately, by the time this is released, the first game will be over because that's at
Yeah.
3 a.m. on Friday. So hopefully you get to watch that. It's funny because on the NBA website they have the Fly United tag, like, hey, you can fly out. I'm like, I don't want to know how much that costs.
Yeah.
Last minute trip to
A
Tokyo.
last minute trip to Tokyo. Woo.
Yeah, I don't have that the way my checking's set up.
Yeah, the way my bank account is set up. Yeah.
But
Not
if you
a,
hear this as soon as it's released, which will be sometime on Friday, you'll still be able to catch the Saturday game. They got a back-to-back, which is kind of wild too. Playing again against Washington in Tokyo, and that was at 10 p.m. PT. So actually, there's a bit of a gap there. It's over 24 hours, even though it's a back-to-back. It's like super early and then super late. So I'm curious. Like I said, I'll probably actually be up, unfortunately, tonight, doing some writing
yeah.
myself. So I'll probably be up and catch the game. But I'll definitely try to catch that Saturday night one at 10 p.m. That's pretty dope. Watching some NBA games happening literally away from the country. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm very like interested in the way that they're the NBA is approaching some of the Asian markets. It's it's been a little bit I guess like finicky or fishy since the whole China fiasco and
Yeah,
all that stuff. Not gonna rehash that, but I know it's been different, right?
yeah,
Since then. So I'm very intrigued with that because I think that would be a cool thing to do to be able to like go to to Japan to watch a basketball game, if that's gonna be like a regular thing, kind of like how in England they play one, the Patriots, right? Don't they always play a game in are they used to, at least they were for a while, playing a game in England, right? Every year.
Yeah, the NFL used to regularly have. It wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily the Patriots all the time, but it was like a marquee team. Like Jaguars played a lot of games there.
Yeah.
They play in London, as Dalton says that they still do this regularly every season. They have one of those games. So yeah, it's something they always do. So I think I like the idea of the NBA doing this for preseason as well, because during the grit and grind of the season, it's a bit much. But hey,
Yeah.
preseason, Lakers are going to be in Vegas. There's no team there either, so it's kind of a good, fun way to kind of make something that could be boring, which is NBA preseason, and make it interesting, because now you added this like international, angle
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. I'm with you.
For
For
sure.
sure. So let's go ahead and go into the sneaker news. First and foremost, we're gonna talk about one. We'll talk about the Nike SB White Lobster. That's more of a smaller portion of the conversation, because it was announced the Lobster SBs are one of the more coveted sneakers. Um, it's like a they do them like to match the color of an actual, of the different colors of lobsters. So the original one was orange, and if you see like in the picture right here, for people who are watching, you see this picture of the mock-up for it where it has that little band, the same way that like lobster claws have the rubber band over it. So it's kind
Yeah.
of their concept is the one that they do the collaboration with. But I was sad to find out after we put this on the docket that it was going to be a friends and family release only, meaning people who are friends and family of the brand. Probably going to see someone like at Complex, Joe LaPuma, or one of those guys get the sneaker, Jock Slade. Those type of guys are the ones who end up getting these sneakers, and maybe we'll get to see them on a YouTube video or something like
Yeah,
that.
so just in case for people who don't know exactly what friends and family mean, I think you did a good job describing it, but I'll try to chime in a little bit more. It really means it's not retail at all. Like you have
Yeah.
to be like you said, strongly associated with the brand. We're talking maybe a few hundred. Like it's
that.
extremely limited, right? It's like
Yeah.
not possible to pick up. You won't see them getting. You're very likely not going to see them getting sold on eBay or StockX or anything like that. It's not even. They're
And if
not
you do
flipping
see
stuff like
them,
that. It's really.
if you
You
do
see them
see
sometimes?
them, no, I'm saying you may see them because they're gonna someone's gonna be able to put that up for like 10 grand, 20 grand. That
Wow. Okay.
when you put it up for, you can put it up for like an O2 Honda. You can sell. Sometimes you look at that, you're like, man, I mean that's a friend, but like if you could sell a sneaker for that much, then so sometimes you will see it. So I won't say
Yeah.
it won't be readily available on those apps.
Oh
So
yeah, for sure,
you
for
might
sure.
not have
So
your
yeah, so
size.
that's what the bummer of it is, which we get. I understand it's part of the culture, but it's like, man,
Yeah.
you really can't. It's pretty crazy, but they do look really nice.
Yeah. Yes, they do. Now moving on to a more, uh, you know, interesting topic. We're going to talk about the LeBron 20 Time Machine. That sneaker just released today, I believe. At the time of recording, it's the 29th. It was this morning, Thursday 29th, this morning, that it had its public release. This shoe has been lauded and very received very well, because it LeBron James shoes have been like historically bulky. He's a 200
Hmm.
and 50 pound, maybe more, 6'9" dude. So his shoes have to be able to support him, and a lot of the sneakers that he has worn have been high tops. And this is, I want to say, like the first like mainline shoe in a long time that has been a low top. Like just there's times where it comes out with a low top variation, but like the sneaker releasing initially as a low top. So that was really big for his brand. I mean, for him, because this is year 20. They were initially debuted by, as we had spoken about previously, a few, in like our first or second pod, that this was debuted initially by him in, I believe it was in Drew League, and then the in the pink colorway, and then this colorway was debuted by his sons,
Yeah.
um, in their games. So you can tell he's really like trying to, that this sneaker is for the next generation and not so much for him. That's what I got from it. Just even the approach for like the way that he's showing it, and the colors and the it being like more similar to a Kobe. which is a very popular sneaker in the league. So I wanted to make sure that you talked about it. What are your thoughts on the sneaker itself?
You know what? I think I'm gonna cop these. I think I'm gonna get these. These are sick. I feel the same about you when it comes to LeBrons. They're kind of cool, but I usually don't get them because they're kind of bulky, and I haven't liked the last couple ones enough to pull the trigger. These ones, like you said, I think every Nike fan is a Kobe fan, especially that Kobe 4, right? So
Yes.
we're kind of looking for the next that, and I won't say go as far as saying this is I have to feel it and play with it, and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
I like it. I like the colorways. I like the style. It's going to go with a lot of things if you wear it in a fashion sense, and we'll see how it is on the court. And the fact that it looks like it's lighter, it's smaller. Like you said, it's not high or a mid. It's more on the low end. So yeah, I'm thinking I might copy. These are pretty sick. I like them.
I'm 100% with you. Like I think that the sneaker too has like the streetwear ability, which are what
Yeah.
like his sneakers haven't had since, to me, like maybe the Kobe. I mean, the Kobe, the LeBron 9. I think that's the last one that I was really seeing people, like when he was in Miami, like people actually, and that was also a different time because like 2013 is when people were like wearing basketball shoes in general, and
Yeah.
wearing elite socks. That was a whole era right there. People wearing KDs and elite socks and all their basketball shoes and elite socks. Now I think we're more about comfort and style than style sometimes, and that style is going to be important. But these have like a streetwear where I feel like I could wear these with my sweatpants or with my
Yeah.
that, and not feel like, man, these should be on the court only.
Yeah.
And I think for me, my one gripe with this sneaker is that the price point is $200.
Yeah, it's
That
high.
that's the one thing. The one thing that that it's hard for me. Usually, low tops are cheaper than the high tops.
Hmm.
Um, and I know that it's LeBron's main line shoe, so he's probably gonna come out with something that's overseas or something, another one that's like a lower grade that doesn't, or like a previous model, and sell it for cheaper. But the $200 price point is the thing that makes me like, well, can I justify that for a shoe that I'm gonna play ball in? You know what I mean? And destroy.
Yeah.
So that's the one, my one. I don't say it's an issue, but my one concern about it. I mean, I'm sure that we'll be able to catch some of these on sale after a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah.
But that's the one thing that I was looking at.
Yeah, no, good point. I didn't think about like, yeah, it's a low, so it shouldn't be like the price of a mid or a high. So yeah, that's definitely going to be a factor. I'd be curious to see how well it does or how much we see it just out, once it's more available and kind of out everywhere.
Yeah. Um, what I definitely will do a review on that once I cop that, and then I'll put it on the page too.
Yeah, I can't wait. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I'm actually gonna go get it. So we'll see who gets it first. It'll probably be
Yeah.
you, but we'll see. We'll
Nah,
make a
nah,
race.
man. I've been relaxing on the sneakers. I kind of went crazy this summer, so I'm trying to relax a little bit. Um, Now, moving on to our next subject, the Nike Travis Scott. There was a note that was put out by Complex initially, by Brendan Dunn. He's really like, you know, I guess particular about making sure that we give him credit for when he is the person who says it first. So just want to say, Brendan Dunn of Complex is the one to first report this. Um, that the Nike CEO, John Donahue, reports that the recent Travis Scott X Air Jordan 1 Low has the most entries in sneaker app history at 3.8 million. This is a really big thing because a couple things, the Astroworld incident obviously was a terrible tragedy, and Nike had stopped some releases for a while, and people were wondering, is he going to be able to recover? His brand going to be able to recover? For me, I had no doubt. We have such a short-term memory, and so much information is being given to us, and things are happening so fast. Like, that feels like years ago, right?
Hmm.
So that I didn't think it was going to be an issue, but it's something that needs to be navigated, right? So to me, that says a lot that he's back.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree with you. Obviously, it's very serious and all that. And we haven't. I don't even know if he's performed since then. If he has, it's like one or two things. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Um, So he's got to be careful. Honestly, especially for that incident, I feel like the solution is pretty simple. It's just do seated viewing only for a little bit. And I mean, you can't really mosh in the chair, so that'll calm it down at least for a little bit. And then maybe you can open it up, slowly, and hopefully people will be more responsible and just careful. It's fine to have the energy, but obviously we can't get to that point. So I think that would be the solution. He's done the apologies. Time's gone on. Do some venues where there's seats everywhere. And then you can start expanding from there. So yeah, like you said, Nike kind of took a step back and waited a minute. But like you said, it's popular. The talent is not the issue. It's the safety and stuff. It's not like he was, I mean, he's got his own accountability for it, but he wasn't out there over pushing or, it's kind of like, he's created an atmosphere where that's possible. So he's got to hold himself accountable for that. But he can also try to help work and create an atmosphere where that isn't as possible. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm glad it's
part of his brand. Sorry to cut you off. My bad.
No, you're good.
Part of the brand of his brand too is kind of like the raging, and he tweeted about that, like real ragers will be there. So there's some inciting things that I feel like on some level, I am personally I would feel like some level of accountability, but not the same as a venue. Like a venue has to make sure that hey, they say this is how many people could get in, and if people are sneaking in and it's over that well then you gotta like stop the venue, and get out the people who aren't supposed to be there, because of exact reasons like this where a tragedy can happen where people, adults and kids can lose their life, So not to focus too much on that, but it is something that we need to acknowledge because it's not like I'm not gonna tiptoe around it, let's not,
well, it's part of the story, right? Like the comeback happened because there was a go away. Right?
Exactly. So the shoe brand is showing that it's been strong. I don't understand why that was so hyped because I want to let you guys know I was fortunate enough to get those sneakers early. Like I had those in like 6 months early. And when I was posting about it and talking about it, it was just like, oh, those are dope. But like the second it was like close to the sneaker coming out, people started going crazy for that Travis Scott, the white and brown, the mocha, the reverse mocha.
Yeah, the mocha ones. Yeah, I saw those a lot.
The reverse mocha ones, man. Those people went crazy for. I didn't get it. I liked them.
Maybe you can't tell us, but I saw Rob, I think, wearing them. Did Rob hook you up there? Flinko, was he the one? I saw him. I saw him in Summer League wearing them.
he probably not super happy with me with the memes I've been doing lately. About how like, but I don't. Those aren't personal, Rob. If you're listening to this, I've been a pretty strong supporter of you throughout your tenure, so I'm not your enemy. But yeah, he was wearing those at Summer League. I was walking around with my friend, and that works in the front office, and he actually came up to us and like pulled my friend aside to talk to him about basketball stuff. So I like saw him up close and personal, and he was wearing the Travis Scott joints. So that was cool.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, things are funny like that. Every now and then something like that happens where it kind of was like almost like a late bloom. We're like, oh, we knew about this, but now y'all are just going nuts over it. Especially in the social media era, you see that less. It feels like everything's known, like and we get information like so much. But every now and then that happens where something just kind of gets slept on for a minute, and then it comes out, and now everyone the hysteria is there. So yeah, good numbers for Nike, good numbers for Travis on that. So all around good. Hopefully, moving forward, there is not much negative news to report on. So that's what we're all hoping for.
Hopefully, yeah. Last thing we're gonna just briefly go on before we move into our pop culture section, and we also need to add another thing to the pop culture section that we can briefly touch on. I don't think either of us have seen it yet, but we got to acknowledge about the whole the Dahmer series or whatever. So last thing in the sneaker section is the Jordan 1 Lost and Found. That is going to be the hottest sneaker of the. It's going to be on everyone's top 10, top 5 list of sneakers. Anytime you have the Chicago colorway of a retro Jordan that Jordan actually wore, and they find a way to tell a new story about it, Because listen, Nike loves their story. They'll be like, "This is the shoe that Michael Jordan wore the first time that he went to the store, the grocery bag ones." Like I'm telling you, like the first Jordans
No, I
he wore,
understand.
and it'll be like that'll be a whole story. And I love that about sneakers because they combine so many different art forms. But I think that I want to just say like this is gonna be the hottest sneaker that's gonna be coming out. Everyone's gonna be trying to get this next month. I might be getting these early. Should be able to do a review on them, and I'll make sure that I put them on screen once I have them in
Oh
hand.
yeah, definitely do. I do like these. The color is so bright. It's so beautiful. So yeah, these are obviously there's been like a million versions of the ones, but also there's been a million that have hit.
Yeah,
I think this has like I'm gonna say it's got Virgil Off White one potential. Like this could be like shoe of the year kind of thing.
definitely, man. You're right. That the off white. I think the aged part of it too. I like that.
Yeah,
I think that's the
yeah, me
like
too.
the aged leather. I think that's a good take. I think sometimes they'll try things, and it doesn't do that well. But I'm really liking like the kind of like aged tongue. How it's like a little bit like more of a vanilla color as opposed to white, and then the cracked leather in the back and the white on the side. So uh, definitely gonna be keeping my eyes out for these.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they look great.
Cool. And now moving into the pop culture section. Um, have you? So right now everybody's talking about the Dahmer series. It's very controversial because people people have like also as much as they like there's many people who love like the dramas and watching those ones about serial killers. There's certain people who are just fascinated with it because it's just like so beyond what anything that we would do, that it's fascinating. Same reason we like horror movies, right? And there's
Hmm.
also people on the opposite end who are like, let's not like hold these, like make these killers like these mythical like legends, right? The way that
Hmm.
we prop up like Michael Jordan or anything like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Where we kind of like fetishize them, and I think that there's a balance between like that and also like this did happen, and it's you can educate people and entertain them in the sense of like it being like I don't think like art forms are always supposed to just be like enjoyable. Sometimes they're supposed to make you uncomfortable and feel weird
Hmm.
because it's history, if it's like bringing history to light. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you kind of touch base on both aspects well. I'm somewhere in the middle, but I'm probably more on the it's not for me. Like I just don't like watching the and then he goes in the closet where he has the bodies. And like and for me it's just like
Mm,
I'm like it's too much. It's too much. I'm good. I'm not trying to watch the serial killer. But do know a lot of people who do watch them. Obviously I think everyone does. And one thing one of the people I know who watched it told me is that it's a way for you to kind of like horror where you can go into that kind of mind and that kind of environment and see that danger but be safe because it's just a story and it's
yeah.
already been happened, person's probably been caught or whatever, and it's not you're not in danger. And there's definitely, we know Americans, they love violence, so it's like this kind of has a little bit, it's like a gumbo. It's got everything. It's got the drama, it's got the captivating writing, it's got an interesting story, it's got the danger, but also not that it's fantasy, but it's been resolved, it's been done, and you can just kind of feel safe experiencing it for those who feel it. For me, it's not for me. I have heard everyone say that it's really, really good. It's like a good one of these.
Yeah, and
So
it doesn't like do where like like the way that they did the Ted Bundy one, like a lot of people felt like were had an issue with that because it was kind of like making Ted Bundy out to be like this good guy who
yeah,
like
like he was cool or
like a
something.
super
Yeah,
like a cool guy who just happened to be a like serial
right.
killer. Like you know what I mean? And I get part of his charm was how part of him was how he used his charm to do that, but like the trailer didn't need to be like trying to like sell it like
Exactly.
that. So, but
How
and I
about you?
think
Do you watch these kind of shows?
for me, movies and television are like a way for me to be able to escape reality. So I try not to like watch anything that reminds me of like how terrible society can be.
Right.
But I'm the type of person where like I will not want to watch it, and then because of how that's gonna make me feel, and then once I get into it, I have to finish it. So if I
Same.
start it, I'll
Same.
have to watch it. Like it's kind of
Yep.
like scary movies. If I watch the first beginning of it and I don't figure out what happens at the end, I'm gonna be thinking about it all day when I sleep. I'm gonna be looking around corners. So for me, I think the one thing that I think that specifically Dahmer's story is important to be told because it kind of like talks about the way that like it's some social commentary on the way that like when black people complain that sometimes they're it's not met like it's not met with the same concern as other people. Specifically, there's that story about Dahmer taking that child, and they went to the police, and the police gave the kid back to Dahmer. That is like such a important story that like is not something that should be washed on the table. It should be something that's studied by by policemen and by society so that things like that don't happen again. So I think there is a balance of like, hey, this is what happened, and putting it in a form that people are willing to do. Because if we were just like a police officer showing coming on the screen and showing you pictures of it, nobody wants to watch none of that. Watch that to do the story. And anybody who's interested in it can just look that up, read about it online. So I'm kind of in the middle like you, but I think I probably, it's not for me myself, but I'm sure I could appreciate it on some level.
Yeah, same. And I don't judge anyone for watching it. You want to watch it, it's fine. It's just those are the reasons why it's not for me. Kind of the same thing.
Facts. Moving on to the next subject, though, a lot lighter, is the Deadpool trailer. Our announcement, Deadpool announcement trailer, which it was really awesome because one, Deadpool's like a fan favorite, and it was a special way that they did it. They did like a trailer where Ryan Reynolds was just talking about like he wanted to make sure the next Deadpool was like special. You know what I mean? And basically like it was jokes about like him walking around just living life and working out and having a drink and all these things. And he's like, but I couldn't think of anything. And then Hugh Jackman walks by and he's like, oh, do you want to play Wolverine again? And Hugh Jackman was like, oh, sure. And that was the way that they announced the next Deadpool, and that it would star Wolverine in it. What did you think about the trailer, and did you get a chance to watch it?
This is classic Reynolds here. He's kind of built his brand on like the wise ass slick guy. Yeah. And it works every time on me. Like I love him as Detective Pikachu. I love him in that what's that movie he just did where it was a video game?
I haven't seen it yet, but I heard it's
I
good.
forgot the name. I don't know if Dalton can find the name for us. I think he might have got it here. Free Guy. Yes, I watched Free Guy. It's on HBO Max. Fun. If you want a fun time, watch Free Guy. It was awesome. And Deadpool, he's kind of playing the same character. This wise guy. Obviously, he's a superhero there. So it's a little different, but Deadpool's character is kind of a joking character, so it's a perfect casting. And he does a great job with this. Again, he keeps it light, he keeps it funny. He's kind of mocking the idea of those like motivational, like, oh, I went to, this is kind of like every documentary does this, right? Yes. Guy on the beach, like, I thought about what we could do to push it to the next level. And then I thought of Star Wars episode, whatever, or video game, whatever. Then we came out with this sneaker, and instead he mocks that by saying, "And then I did nothing. I had nothing. I didn't have." And then, of course, the way he casually brings like one of the most beloved, actors to play a superhero ever. It was fantastic. So yeah, it worked so well. They also did a response to that because people have questions. They're like, "Oh, how are we gonna have Logan there when spoilers for Logan, but he's no longer around, so how's he in this movie?" And he's like, okay, we're gonna explain it, and then they put music over them talking and they just keep rambling. So they're already killing it. Like, this movie's already amazing, and it hasn't even had a trailer officially. It was just a couple of tweets with some video. So it's been a great job. So.
It had like over, I think, 100,000 on Twitter, 100,000 quotes. Not even like views, but like 100,000 people had quoted it or something. I think it was like along those lines. Like that. Last time I had checked, I was like, wow, that's a lot. Like when you're generating that much conversation, that means like it was well received.
It's either really good or really bad, depending on what. And it was a really good. Yeah, 100.4K says Dalton in quote tweets alone. And the video has 38 million views, and the response to that video has 13 million. So yeah, this movie's gonna do gangbusters. I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait as well. Lastly, have you had a chance to watch the Andor, the first few episodes of the Andor series.
Like a bad student, you told me to watch it like a week ago, and I watched it last night and today. But I did watch the first two. I haven't watched the third and the fourth one.
The
but I did
third
watch the
one's the
first
most important. That is like those are the first three came out all at the same time, but it's cool. I was gonna say the first two episodes.
You can spoil episode 3 for me. It's okay. I'm gonna watch it after this anyway. So,
No,
and
no,
I'm
no,
not
no.
one of those people big on the spoilers. It's all right.
No. We'll keep it brief for this one. I just said that the first three episodes, the first two are very kind of slow, but they set the tone, and the third episode really gets you excited for what's gonna happen next after that. That's why I was like, oh my goodness, we can't really talk about that. It was a little bit slower. But I like the tone. It's definitely a lot more serious than the Disney shows. It kind of has more of a HBO vibe over a kind of like a Disney vibe, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm loving it so far. I saw the tweets from people kind of like, hey, the first couple episodes are slow. I didn't feel that at all. I felt like it was well paced. It was serious. It was dark. It was what I wanted. This is like Rogue One, the TV show, which is exactly what I wanted.
Which is
so
the
I'm
best
happy
one
so
outside
far.
of the trilogy, by the way. The best Star Wars movie outside of the trilogy. So
you are correct. I am in that camp as well. And the reason why it was so good was it was dark. It was serious. The writing was good. And the action was spaced out well. And when you do get action, it was phenomenal. That's why Rogue One is so good. It balances everything perfectly. It doesn't just give you like a big shootout with like 18. The lightsaber is supposed to mean something. It's supposed to be powerful and dangerous. And I think Star Wars suffers when it's like, oh, there's 15 lightsabers and we're just like zooming. No one's hurting anyone because it's deadly. And everyone's missing every shot. And we're just like this for like 8 minutes. And it kind of doesn't look cool. But it kind of, I'm like, okay, so what? And in Rogue One, there is that action, but it's few and far between, and it's really important and really dangerous when it comes out. So, and I think that's what Andor's doing as well, right? It's not as much action, especially those first two, but they're talking. It's so tense. They're in the bar. You feel the tension. Guy across is looking at me. I'm trying to get this information. Like, it's tense. Action does happen. It's important. And then we keep it going. So I'm loving this show so far. It's been up and down with Star Wars, even with the shows. I liked what was the first one? Mandalorian, like season 1 and 2. Then I was kind of over it after that. I really liked what was the one they did that was like they were like kind of like vignettes. Every episode was different with different like images, like animation.
Star Wars stories or Star Wars. It's like a different type of animation each time. I think it's called Star Wars Visions. I'm pretty sure it's Visions.
Yes, Visions. And then I didn't like the other one they did. I forgot what it was. The other animated one.
You don't like? Wait, you didn't like Bad Batch?
Yes, Bad Batch. I didn't even finish it. But I was like, I just feel like this isn't Clone Wars. So it's like this isn't Clone Wars. So I'll try to finish it up.
But Clone Wars, the last season of Clone Wars, man, that is like a masterpiece, man. That's like, to me, that's apex. Like Clone Wars was like apex of like, this is what Star Wars is. And
agreed.
Even I think is as much on the same level as like Rogue One or the original trilogy or certain parts of the prequels. But yeah, so that is gonna close our show. We had the opportunity to talk about a little bit of everything today. Today was a good balance of like not just, cause sometimes basketball dominates the conversation because there's so much going on. So I'll bring us out, yo. Thank you guys so much. You can find me at the Pettiest LA on all platforms, and then Edwin, I believe, right? Your Creates 88 on all platforms, and so we'll leave it at that. We might. I'm not gonna say who, because if it doesn't happen, I'm gonna be mad. But we might have an interview next week. So look forward to that, and stay petty. You have anything else you want to say to the audience before we head out?
Go Lakers! Lakers in 5.
Lakers in 5. Take care.
All eyes on me, coming out the lead, and you know it's ID. Ice white shit, man.